Hi, third graders. We are going to be working on the first people of Michigan, so our Native Americans. And you just did a brainstorming activity all about the three fires, which were those first groups of Native Americans, the primary groups of Native Americans living in Michigan before people had really come from other countries. So the three fires can also be called the Anishinaabek, okay? The Anishinaabek. Go ahead and say that word out loud, Anishinaabek. Good. Now, they were called three fires because there were three tribes that made up the Anishinaabek, or the three fires. There was the first tribe, which was called the Ojibwe. Go ahead and say Ojibwe. Good. Now, the Ojibwe could spell their name two different ways. You can see both of them right here. But they also went by a third name, which is the Chippewa, okay? And if you know anything about CMU, CMU says fire up chips. That's kind of their slogan. And they are named after the Chippewa Indians, or the Ojibwa Native Americans. Now, they were part of the three fires. And this group of the three fires, the Ojibwe, primarily lived in the area by Lake Huron, which is this right around Michigan by the coastline, and they lived in the Upper Peninsula. Their group of people actually had even some settlements that were on islands between the two peninsulas, and they also had people that moved as far north as Canada, and so there were some areas of Canada that had Ojibwe Native Americans there as well. Now, the second group that is part of the Anishinaabek people are called the Odawa. Go ahead and say Odawa. Good. They can also be spelled, or that can also be spelled like this with a T, Ottawa, but we pronounce it Odawa, okay? And the Odawa people lived in other places. They lived in Michigan, but they did not live in those same locations as the Ojibwe people. No, the Odawa people lived along the coast of Lake Michigan. Now, this is the coastline of Lake Michigan, not the whole coastline, but they lived on a decent portion of it, a little bit down to the center of Michigan in this area. But yes, they had a lot of our coastline that they were using as their land. Now, we know that coastal areas and water is very important to early settlements. So this was a really great area for this group of people to be settled on. Now, the third group of people that make up the Anishinaabek were called the Potawatomi. Go ahead and say Potawatomi. Good. Potawatomi. Yep, there we go. Now, the Potawatomi do not have another name or another spelling, unlike the other two tribes in the three fires. And this group, the Potawatomi, lived in a more central location, actually. The Potawatomi did not have too much of the coastline. They were not quite as reliant on the water as their other two tribes that made up the Anishinaabek. So you can see here in orange that they were in this very southern and central part of Michigan. They did have two coastlines, one near the thumb up here and one near Lake Michigan to the left. But yes, they were mostly in the center of Michigan. Now you might be wondering, well, Mrs. Zetterholm, this center part was not colored in for any. So is that a fourth fire? The answer to that is no. In that area that is just this lighter color right here, okay, there was really little to no settlement. These three fires would often kind of travel around Michigan, but none of them really chose to settle in that land area. And we'll talk about why as we get further into this unit. But that inland land did not have the resources or weather that they really wanted in their ideal location. So the Anishinaabek, or the Three Fires, is made up of 3 tribes. They were the first people who were living and in Michigan, and they're the 3 major tribes that are most commonly associated with Michigan. So they were the Ujibwe, the Odawa, and the Potawatomi. We are going to be learning some facts about the Anishinaabek, and we are going to be adding them to our fact box below. If you are absent today, you will have to write these notes into your packet in the classroom when you return.